Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back for another Big Love Season 2 review. As much as Bill wants to ridicule Roman and act like Roman is just this horrible person, which he is, I feel like, and y'all let me know what you think, I feel like Bill has some similar characteristics to Roman. You can't sit there and speak ill of the things that he does and then be willing to do some of those same things if it serves your agenda. It's giving big time hypocrisy to me. Also, before I get to say it, I actually like Nikki in this episode. I feel like the actress that plays her is doing a phenomenal job in portraying what a lot of us often picture when it comes to polygamous women. I think that I have found myself at times feeling bad for her character because although she is stubborn and she is opinionated and she's mischievous and she causes confusion at times, I see this childlike quality in her as well. We'll get to it. I also found myself feeling bad for her when she realized that her father is full of crap. I think that in this episode, she finally got a little taste of how evil her father can be because it seems like towards the end of it, she was defeated in a way that we haven't seen her defeated before when it came to him. But we'll get to it. So we begin the episode with Joey, and we're in a local jail. Joey has turned himself in for a crime that we all know that he hasn't committed. He's done this because of the deal that he's made with Roman and because he does not feel like if Wanda were to come to jail that she would make it. As usual, in my opinion, Bill at times seems more concerned about himself than Joey. So Joey fills him in on what he was told, saying Roman said that he would drop the case if he voted with him on a UEB matter, but the case didn't get dropped because the state got involved. So Bill is looking perplexed because he didn't know anything about this. He tells Joey, like, don't make any more decisions about anything when it comes to this until you can talk to me. So he looks at his brother and he's like, Bill, I just want to let you know I only slipped up the one time. That's all. As he's saying this, I am realizing that his thing was drinking. We've seen drinking. I thought it may have been drugs or something else, but it seems like it's more so drinking than anything. And I feel like drinking must have been a major, major problem because in the previous episode, Wanda tried to cover up the fact that he was drinking when it came to Nikki and Margene. So there must have been like a big, big deal with it because he really wants to get the reassurance that his brother understands, look, I only did this one time. I hadn't fallen off the wagon prior to this. So he's like, just hold on until, I can get you out of here. Let's skip to this whole thing with Marge and Ben, right? Barb heads over at some point to Margene's house where she's telling her what she should do like normal, that she's staying up too late, that she has to get more rest because she's pregnant, that she needs to get started on the baby nursery. So here's some stencils and here's some paint. It's rather naggy if you ask me. She often talks to Margene like Margene is her child. I've said it before, but given that there's only a 5-year age difference between Ben and Margene, I can see why at times Barb speaks to her like she's a child. Barb is getting more and more uncomfortable with Ben being around Margene. She doesn't like that he's walking around shirtless. She doesn't like that he keeps sleeping on her couch, that they are constantly touching each other and hugging each other and embracing each other and play fighting All of which, if I'm being honest, comes across as flirtatious to me. And spraying each other with water hoses and playing in the pool, dumping each other in the pool and pushing each other in the pool and all these other things is very cringy. So at some point in the show, the Don's wives and Marge, I said a Marge, it's not Marge. I keep calling her Marge and her name is Margine. Um, Don's wives and Barb meet up for what I think is like a book meeting. And they're making all this noise while they're outside playing with the water hose and stuff like that. And one of the ladies is like, are those your older two? Is that your older two, boy and girl? And it's not. It's Margine and Ben. Meaning, once again, she's constantly acting like a child. It's just very inappropriate. Comes off as inappropriate to me. So Marge is seen later on with her yelling at Barb because Barb tried to summon her to go shopping at Dillard's so they could talk about the whole situation, about how her relationship is inappropriate at times with Ben. It just didn't land for me because I actually agree with Barb. I do feel like their relationship is inappropriate. But I also think that Barb didn't handle it correctly either, because it's clear that Margine is naive, that she at her core doesn't realize the things that she's doing is inappropriate, because from the first episode in the first season, it was clear that Barb had a problem with the way Margine was dressing, with the fact that she came in there with the robe that was just directly under her cheeks, with the way that they embraced and all these other things. And she didn't address it, which I get is something with their culture, but you also can't be upset because she seems to not know. Margine may feel like she's a mother figure. Is that what she says later on at the end? But to me, I just don't feel that way. Just because he comes to you about certain things doesn't mean that you're a mother figure. You're 5 years apart, which makes me wonder how Sarah views her father, because if they're 5 years apart, then that means she and Margine are what, 4 years apart? It's even less than that. If anything, in my opinion, Ben may be looking at her like she's a big sister, but not his mother. Some of you may disagree. Let me know your thoughts on that down below. So at some point, we see Barb steaming cards from her sister to see what's in it, because she sent a birthday card and the grandmother sent a birthday card to Ben. And she then talks to the wives, Don's wives, about what she read. She thinks that because Cindy wrote in the card, "I hope you know what happened to your mother and your family is not your fault," that she had something to do with them being outed. I'm confused though, because did people see the broadcast or not? Because we're not noticing any difference at their business, with the exception of Wendy. We're not seeing a whole bunch of people from the job talking about it. We just know that people in the First Lady's office were talking about it. So what's the story with that? Barb says that at this point, she's tried calling her sister over 20 times and she's not calling her back. And the other ladies are like, look, you have to stop calling her, because we've experienced things like this with our own family. And it got to the point where, because they disagree with our choices, that they even tried to take the kids away. They talk about how they hate how polygamy is being portrayed and how their families feel about it and how it shows up on the media, and how they wish that they could come out because of what is being seen versus what actually is. And they feel like all the good ones are closeted. When they said it, I said, isn't that, isn't that how the Brown family came out? Didn't the Brown family want to show us just how positive this whole situation was and how great polygamy was and how they didn't act like what was seen on television? And now we've later learned that it wasn't as great as they've portrayed, and they had a lot of issues that they still haven't been completely honest about. That's what it reminded me of. So we see her after the wives have left and told her not to. She calls her sister Cindy again, and the niece answers the phone and takes the message. And Barbara's like, could you just let her know that I still love her? And no matter what she's done or what she thinks I've done, we can make it better. Because as I said before, she thinks her sister is the one who told. So Margene overhears this, and we see her later call Cindy, and she doesn't make the situation any better. She's in over her head. Cindy tells her, what goes on between me and my sister doesn't have anything to do with you. It's not your business. And she's like, Barb is, the sweetest and most loving and supportive sister wife ever put on the earth. And I love her so much. And Cindy's like, how old are you? She said, how old are you? Because this is in junior high. We're not having a sleepover. You need to grow up and never call my house again. And she hangs up the phone. It goes back once again. They're reiterating how young Marge is. I do not think that there is a 5-year difference between her and some of the kids. I think that it's even less than that, but we'll find out. I don't know. It's something I really, really believe that she was underage when she was with Bill, because she comes off as extremely immature to me. I also noticed that we did not hear Cindy talk to Nikki like that when Nikki was checking her. We didn't. Let's get to Ben. So we see Ben throughout the episode struggling with how he feels about the decisions that he's made when it has come to his girlfriend. He wants to do his own thing. So he's there, I believe it's with Don's son. I can't remember if his name is Joey or something like that. And he's sitting there as Don's son is getting a tattoo. And he's trying to tell Ben, to join this group that he's joining, some initials that he's getting put in big letters as a tramp stamp across the back of his back. I'm not trying to say anything, y'all. I have a tramp stamp too, so... I didn't know that's what it was called back then. But anyways, so he has it in the lower part of his back, for those of you who don't know what they consider that to be. It's in the lower part of his back. And he's trying to convince Ben to join this group. It's weird, though, because he's sitting there and he's condemning him. Let me not say weird, sound like the Browns. It's odd. It's ironic that he's sitting there and he's condemning Ben and coming down hard on Ben for the decisions that he's made, and because he's been having sexual relations with his girlfriend and all those other things like that. But I would think that based on their faith, that he shouldn't be getting tattooed. So you think that the drinking and the smoking and all that stuff is wrong, but I guess it's okay to get a tattoo. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what this group is that he's in. If y'all understood it, put it down below for me. Because if I'm honest, I really didn't care what the group was, because I feel like this is just a bunch of teenagers trying to figure out what exactly they want to do and who they want to be, independent of their families. So while his friend is there talking to him, he says that he feels like their dads have, messed them up. That it's odd that, Margene is running around the house the way that she is, and that Ben is still sleeping with, his girlfriend and all these other things. It just doesn't seem right. He wants him to be a part of this group, but he's like, if you're going to join, you can't just, it's not a game. You got to be in it. So the tattoo artist is like, yeah, I've been in it for however many years. It's great. He's just looking out for you. Whatever. We later see Bren come over, and they have game night and stuff with the family. It looks like a good time. She leaves, so we think, and she walks out with Ben. But Ben doesn't really walk her out, because what we see later on is that Ben has her over at Margene's house on her couch, and they're having sex. And he's gotten a lot better than the first time that we've seen him do it. So it's safe to say that they may have done this a few times. While going to, I don't know if she's coming or going, but she has a laundry basket, and Sarah sees, because the windows are open and she's in the backyard, her brother on the couch with Bren having sex. She runs back in the house, and her mom is like, he's over there again. It's too late. And she's about to go over there, and she's like, no, mom, I got it. She doesn't let her mother know, because they're siblings and she's trying to protect him. Instead, what she does is the next day, she tells him, I saw you. She says, in Sunday school, they always used to say to us that it's better to see your sons and daughters in wooden boxes than to give up their chastity. I cannot believe if that is what is done. I don't know if this is just for the show, but I cannot believe that this is the message that we're giving young people in this faith, that you rather, for the sake of the show, that you rather see them deceased than for them to have sex. Really? This is what we're saying, which you wonder why some of them decide to get married so early and things of that nature. It's because of stuff like that, because of what it's made to be seen like. Look, I'm not going to sit here and mince words. I waited for a long time to do anything, right? I didn't do anything until I was in college, because I was always taught that you should save yourself for marriage. I know there's a few of us out there that were taught the same thing. And when I decided to do something, I decided to do something. Did I feel guilty about it? Yes. Did I want to run and tell my parents about it? Of course not. My parents didn't find out, I was doing anything for real until I was pregnant. I think my dad knew because, the birth control showed up on his bill, like on his insurance stuff. But I think I told him it was to regulate my period, which wasn't a lie, because I did start birth control to regulate my period. But with that being said, I'm going on a tangent here. Yeah, she's back. She's back to giving tangents. I just feel like it's so, it's alarming to me, because this is a thing that people actually feel this way. Do I want my teenage son to be out there having sex? No. Have I had certain discussions with him, telling him what all comes with it? That, yeah, there's certain parts of it that's great, but I need you to understand the emotional aspect of it and things of that nature. Yes, I got really, really brutally honest with my son. I did. Because even though I would prefer for him to wait, because I think that you need to be at a certain level here before you delve into that, I'm not going to ever tell my son what they were told in Sunday school, which further shows why this is so hard for him. Because he looks at her and he says, "You think I'm going to hell because of this?" And she's like, "I don't think you're going to hell. I can't say, that you're going to hell, but I just want you to be careful because, how or what mom and dad would think of it." Crazy. On to Juniper Creek. Bill and Nikki head to Juniper Creek for the Grant family reunion. It's the first time in a long time that Nikki is going to see some of her siblings in years. Let me not forget to mention that she has, I believe it was 2 brothers that are in exile, which makes me wonder what they did to be put in exile. Maybe they pulled an Albie, or maybe they were more like Bill. I don't know. But during this episode, I felt like I could see Nikki being torn. Because regardless if she likes it or not, Nikki is constantly in the middle of these 2 men with these big egos who both feel like they're in the right and the other person is in the wrong. And I cannot begin to imagine what that feels like and how that makes her feel. In the beginning of this whole thing, I originally thought that Nikki was a spy for her father. But in watching this, I think when it comes to her father and her husband, that she is extremely torn because she loves both and because she feels an allegiance to both. And that is a different type of position to be in. She's not in the same position as Barb because, first of all, she don't really like Roman and she doesn't really believe in Roman. But because that's not her dad, that's not Barb's dad. This is a completely different dynamic because despite everything that has gone on, Nikki loves the compound. So she asks Bill how involved he is with this whole poisoning situation. And Bill is just like, "Look, I am not involved like that, I just need for my brother to get out because my brother didn't do it. All right. So she warns Bill that her dad does not like to be backed against the wall, and she wants him to try and enjoy this. I think that that is telling us something when it comes not to just Bill, but to her brother. Because if her dad doesn't like to be backed against the wall, and if you don't do what it is that her dad wants you to do, we've seen some of the things that come as a result of that. So imagine what may possibly happen to her brother because he doesn't do what Roman wants him to do. So they arrive at Nikki, I think it's the family house, right? Nikki seems happy. She's greeting all her mothers and even asking her sister like how certain ones are. And you hear her sister say, "Oh, that person is, she's at a stage 4 right now," which means they have their own lingo and their own way of dealing with these women. Growing up, they probably found ways to adapt to the various women. Like they know that this one may be like a Mary, who's extremely organized. They know this one may be like a Janelle, who's only worried about the finances and could care less if you clean the kitchen at night. Like this one may be like a Christine. She's a great cook and she's the nucleus of the family. Like they've learned how to adapt. It's what you do. Think about it. If you raise in a 2-parent household, or even with both of your parents, let me not say, it doesn't even have anything to do with the parents. Let's say a household period with various relatives, various personalities. You learn how to adapt with each person. You at your core are the same person, but there's certain conversations, example, that I know that I can have with my father all day long that I cannot have with my mom. Because my mother is going to, at some point, and she means well, bring it back to biblical teachings. My father will give me a little bit of both. He has more of a balance. So for that reason, with certain things, I'm going to go to my dad first because I don't want to just get biblical thumped. I want to hear like life application without that sometimes, you know? So you do what you got to do. And I feel like that is what these children do in these families and these adults. They learn how to navigate because here you are, these 2 women who have children and they're talking and they're saying she's a stage 4, meaning I have to adjust accordingly. Sorry, I'm rambling a lot during this one. Okay, so the media is out there as they pull up, but they're not out there for Roman. There is something else going on with another cult leader. We see Rhonda, and Rhonda is getting fussed at by her mother because she is still not sealed to the prophet. Rhonda gets on my nerves. But I often feel really, really, really sorry for Rhonda because it is so clear that despite what Rhonda says, her actions show that she doesn't want this. So she's fussing at her like, look, I had to spend 3 days on a bus and I had to leave your father with those women to come here and do this. You have to be sealed. Being sealed is a great honor. And she looks at her and she says, and you better be intact and ready. In other words, you better have not done anything already. It is hard for me to understand how the mothers of these children who have been forced into the situations themselves encourage their daughters to be in said situation as well. I know that it's something that's ingrained in them early on and they're programmed and all those other things. I just can't imagine the position that they're in where despite their own heartaches and things of that nature, they're encouraging their girls to follow down the same path. So Rhonda ends up going to Roman and telling him that she's prayed to be worthy of him and that she heard the answer from the Holy Spirit saying that it was time. It wasn't the Holy Spirit, though. It was her mama. Roman wants to be sure that this is what she wants. And he says, you know, like nobody influenced you. Nobody influenced your decision making or anything like that, right? And we already know that the mama did. But she says no. And he's like, the angels, you know, they're going to be singing. Roman's excited because Roman is still very much active. We'll get to it. it. So Nikki ends up interrupting Roman as he is having a letter written to the Senate about same-sex marriages and being grouped with polygamy. Like, he feels like that it shouldn't be, you shouldn't put polygamy in that category because that's a very, very different thing. And he's talking about how some of the greatest people were polygamous, whatever. So she says, I got Bill to stay at your house tonight, and I hope and I know you'll hold up your end of the bargain, Papa, so we can settle things. And he says, I will. And she thanks him. The dynamic with them is odd, because there's part of me that feels like Roman likes Nikki. I also do not forget how inappropriate he was with her, in my opinion, at the birthday party for her son, when they're laying on the bed talking and she's giggling and stuff like that. But for him to have so many children, he does seem to be close to certain ones, and it seems like Nikki may be one of them. You guys let me know. We see Nikki in the kitchen with her sisters and the mothers. Albie walks around and her sister says, that poisoning must have really put a strain on your marriage. I would think so too, but at this point, it seems like Nikki is holding it together. The subject of Wanda comes up and how they think that, Wanda did it. And we find out that Nikki and Wanda have been friends for a long time, and that the sisters feel like Wanda is a nutcase. Nikki lets it be known that despite everything that's going on, she doesn't think that, Wanda did it. We then get a glimpse of what it would be like to see Bill and Roman working together. I thought that this was going to be a whole bunch of drama between them, but they managed to stay civil. Bill and Roman were all business as they fought over the wrongful incarceration of Joey. And Bill, in a nice way, didn't make too much of a scene as he refused to vote for these poker machines. So let's get into it. We're at the UEB meeting. Roman presents the idea of what he calls as touchscreen entertainment devices that are in 6 states. It's coming from a company called Weber Gaming. In other words, it's a video gambling machine. Bill points out how immoral he finds gambling to be, while Roman claims that this is the way to go because the clients don't have a problem with them being polygamous. And by using these machines, they're profiting from the others, from the sins of others. And the UEB can bleed money away from those with these unholy lifestyles and pour the money into the compound's way of life. They take a vote. Everybody says yes, but Bill, he immediately says nay. Bill tells Roman, you made a deal with my brother behind my back. He's in jail for a crime that he did not commit. You need to figure it out and get my brother out before we consider all of this. We then see Bill visit his mother, Lois, and there's some new spiffy furniture inside. His uncle and his newest topless wife are there. Yes, she's walking around talking to Bill with her titties out like it's no big deal. This is when we find out that the uncle and the mom are in business together, that he is helping her with this laundromat that she got a loan for. So we saw her at the laundromat and her acting all odd about it. And it's because this is her business. It's a business venture for her that she didn't tell her son about. She says that she got an SBA loan and she started this whole thing up, and her brother has been advising her. Bill is offended that she didn't tell him, but I don't blame her for not telling Bill because Bill got his own stuff to deal with. Lois says, I don't have to tell you every single thing I do. I got it. I got to depend on myself for the cash. The dough raid me bucks to keep us afloat. It's the way she says things. She's right, though. And it seems like Lois being able to do this independently of the compound is going to be good for her. It's going to be great for her. Later on, we see Bill and his uncle talk about this very thing, and he's like, look, your mom needs to be from under Roman and even Frank's thumb when he decides to come back. This could be her own form of independence, and don't worry, I'll watch out for her. I really hope Lois can get away. Bill says, if you need any help, let me know. He doesn't need any help. Your uncle seems to be rich because we hear about him selling this and this and that and him being a rich man. So he seems to be doing well for himself. I guess he's not a part of this compound, that he has his own things going on, because he does say this is my newest wife, implying that he has others. The Grants sit down to eat. Outside, we hear the weird dynamic of the family and the tree, and how even though that's this wife, you're also the grandmother and whatever else. It's a whole bunch of weird family stuff going on because everybody's connected. One of Nikki's sisters lets her know that tomorrow Rhonda is going to be our newest mother. We see Rhonda, who is sitting by her mother, and she looks at a guy and she smiles, and her mother yanks her by the arm and asks her if she wants to be selling peanuts. She then forces her to go sit by Roman. It is very abusive, and it just seems to be pushed down from generation to generation. So Roman looks over, because they're sitting near each other as they sit outside. Roman looks over and tells Bill that he's calling for a second meeting tomorrow. He says, if your feelings have changed, our family will let bygones be bygones. And Bill says, the minute that the charges are dropped, then you'll have my vote. This is when Roman says, if there's no witness, then there's no case. And he tells Albie, your mom's going to wrap you a plate. You're going to make sure that you go down there and you clear Joey's name by morning. Bill's like, yeah, listen to your dad. Albie stands up to his father and he says, I'm not going to calm down. This is disgraceful. You should consider my well-being. His mother then walks up to him and slaps him across his face in front of everyone, and he walks off. None of them care, and all of them seem to be worried about what Roman thinks, because I don't have his mother really wanting to go up and slap this man, but then part of me feels like she believes in Roman, so maybe it's a thing. Y'all let me know what you think. So it's nighttime. Bill is at the house of Roman, and there is a scene that could be seen as a throwaway scene with some, because Roman is watching this newlywed game while he holds a baby. But we find out that this baby is his youngest son, Emmett Grant. It is gross. And it's unfair. If we really look at polygamy, we got to talk about how unfair it is that they have all these children with these women, with various women who don't even have an opportunity to be with one another. I'm currently reading a book, The Sound of Gravel, and so far with the chapters that I've read, it is giving a great look into polygamy. And without giving any spoilers, in one of the chapters, this young lady finds out about sisters that she didn't even know existed, because of the way that they're so spread apart. And I'm listening to this and I'm seeing, I think this man is in his 70s or something. And here he is with a child that is like a little baby, like the baby's not even one. And you're holding this baby, you're still procreating. Meanwhile, what I think is one of your wives is sitting behind the TV off to the side in a wheelchair with the oxygen tank, and she's asleep. So you're still making babies with babies while you have more appropriate dynamics with older women that you seem to just leave to the side just to be around you while you continue to do whatever it is that you want to do. It seems like the wives get replaced with younger and younger women so that the men can still keep doing what they want to do while they just watch their wives deteriorate. And let's be clear, having all those children and working as hard as the ladies do, it does take away years off of their life. My opinion, you tell me yours. So Bill tells him, look, if you're going to make a deal, you got to do it soon because I'm leaving. Roman says, all these fights that we're having over worldly things like money, don't let them cloud your judgment. It should always be family is first. Bill says, fix this thing, and he walks off. He goes outside and he finds Nikki. She's sitting in a tire, a large, oversized tire. And she's like, do you need my help with Dad? And he tells her, no, I'm just going to vote, for his dirty little machines. You're calling them dirty little machines now. Get you make the decision that you make later. We'll get to it. So she says, giving up hundreds to live in the suburb with 10 is very different, but I don't regret it, showing that she loves her family. Bill then sings Jesus Wants You for a Sunbeam, which is weird, and they have sex. In this scene, Nikki seems almost childlike to me. It's the hiding in the tire, Bill's choice of singing a sunbeam as a song, her nervousness as they stand outside naked in between these sheets, and how when a car comes by, she covers herself with it. I'm sure that those sheets have some type of meaning because they do a lot of symbolic things here, but y'all let me know. So the next thing we know, Roman and two other men barge into Albie's home where he's laying in bed with one of his wives. He tells him, you will go and confess that you consumed the antifreeze yourself in a desperate attempt for attention. Joey Henriksen and his family were your scapegoats. The vote is tomorrow at 1, and it will be resolved by then. Albie says, they'll try and kill me again. He actually does seem scared. Roman says, by rejecting my holy authority, you're threatening your legacy, your wives, your property, and your eternal salvation. In other words, you're worried about Bill, but you need to be worried about me and what I'm going to do to you. Then we get this scene, y'all. Let me adjust. Don't judge me. I don't know why I love sitting on the floor, but one of the things that I do, even out when I'm in my living room and stuff, the couch can be there and I'll still sit on the floor. It's something about the floor. All right. Well, my back does hurt sometimes from my titties, but yeah, it's something about the floor. It's just comfortable. So it's the next day. Nikki is hanging linens on the clothesline, right? Near the area where her and Bill probably just enjoyed themselves the night before. Albie says to her, I'm the victim in this whole situation. And Nikki tells him to get over it. And he says this, Papa is the one who did it. Nikki immediately knows what he's talking about because you can see the change up in her. When Rhonda came back from your homes, she told him all about Barb's little ceremony. He called them. He publicly exposed you and your family, Nikki. He put you in harm's way without a second thought. I went to the state police like Papa told me to, but I told them all about the deal that he's trying to make with Bill. There will be no peace here today at my expense for your husband. I told them that your husband is here. There are repercussions for robbing a man of his dignity. Nikki is looking at him like with tears in her eyes, and she's begging him not to do it. And he says, I was kind to you today. I warned you that the police are coming. He then bends down, kisses her right here on her cheek, and walks off. We then see Nikki in a hurry. She's obviously hurt. Albie lets her know you may want to leave. Nikki confronts her father on what she was told. He denies it. She asks if he did it. And she knows that he did. She says, we don't live here on the compound. We're not protected like you are. Why is that, y'all? Why is it that they know that the compound is there and nothing is done to them? We'll keep going. We're not protected like you are. We can all be put in prison or worse. And Papa, she pauses. His response to all of that is that you will not go spreading false rumors. She does not agree. She just walks out with tears in her eyes. Then she's back at the house and she's panicking and she's taking off her clothes, and Bill walks in and she tells Bill that Albie told the police about Papa's cover-up, that they're coming now. He says, "Does your dad know?" And she says no. But she doesn't tell him about what Albie told her about their father. It seems like the important things aren't discussed, and in so many ways, she's still protecting her father. As they're running out, we see all of them gathering up to take this picture in white that Bill never intended to be in, and the mom is fussing about them making a scene and about them leaving and about how they should be in the picture and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, if you want to use that tongue, you use it against your son. As they drive off, the police are coming in the opposite direction, and Nikki looks so defeated. I think that this was her kind of finally making a break with the compound, finally choosing her sister wives and her husband, but her not mentioning it to her father, that he was the one, to her husband, that her father was the one that exposed them, really makes me wonder if she's broken free. Y'all tell me what you think. We see the whole situation with Ben and how he got into the fight, and Marge tells Barb that, you know, she's not sorry that she threw down Peyton, destroyed a little bit of outside, and for fussing at her, that she knows that she's attractive, but she's Ben's mom, that he got beat up at a concert with Jason and he called me. Maybe I'm close to him in a good way. He needs you, but Nate, maybe he needs me like a third mom too. She could convince herself of that all she wants to. I still don't think that she's like a mom. Barb says he has to sleep in his own bed from now on, and Marge says she'll tell him. That's the end of that. We see Don call Bill, lets them know that he's thinking about pulling the plans on the third store because there's a way to take the pressure off their families. There's a way for them to get money by them purchasing this company whose clients don't mind if they're polygamous, so they won't have to hide it. He says by investing in video poker machines, that this will keep them safe in case things like exposure continue. Interesting how now your morals have gone to the side, and you, who were talking about how immoral these poker machines were, are now sitting here telling Don that you think you want to get them. He is so much like Roman, and he doesn't see it. Bill sits at some point before the machine, and you hear him making the sound like beep, beep, the beeping noise that the machine makes. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually go through with this, but Don tells him he has to think about it. Rhonda ended up going to Bill's truck, and we see her come out of the truck because she snuck in there before they left the compound. She rings Barb's doorbell. There's silence. They look at each other, and then she collapses in Barb's arms, and that's the end of the scene. Y'all, I'm sorry this was so long. I didn't realize how much I was running my mouth. You guys tell me what you think of this episode. What did you catch that I didn't catch? Because I am finding myself really questioning things. How did you feel about Nikki in this? Do we feel bad for her? Y'all let me know. Until next time.